What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Wednesday Night Mythic Conversations, and we've got a very fun conversation this evening because I am being joined by not one, but two amazing guests that are here to help us reveal the Day 2 LegionsCon figure for LegionsCon 2024. Without any further ado, let me bring up my guests. For the second week in a row, Eric Treadaway is joining. Eric, I'm going to try to be far less embarrassed and red this week. There's going to be no sustained bursts on this episode.
I certainly hope not.
We've also got Mr. Trevor Williams. Trevor, thank you very much for coming back to Mythic Conversations and being part of this tonight.
Thanks for having me on. I'm having some connectivity issues, but we'll see if they work through.
Okay. I thought so. I said hello to Trevor, and I'm like, he's not responding.
Maybe I'll go back out and come back in.
All right, sounds good. In the meantime, Eric, well, as we're waiting for Trevor, I'm pretty excited for tonight. How about yourself?
Absolutely, yeah. As always, and we're sitting on these Paint Masters prototypes, concepts, whatever it is.
Yep.
It's fun to save up the surprise, but at a certain point, you're tired of holding back and ready to share it.
Yeah,
I think we're at that point.
Absolutely. And again, it goes back to, what I said a few times already is that first quarter of the year really felt like, closing out 2023. So as soon as we hit quarter two, we revealed the Day 1 LegionsCon figures, which was almost a month ago now. And then we had the mystery boxes from, the Mysteries of Mythos, that sale, which literally just ended today. All those mystery boxes have been going out. It's been incredible to see the amount of toys that are getting out into the world from the warehouse. And now here we are, the very first day of May, and we're revealing the Day 2 LegionsCon figures. And I agree with you that this has been something that is just very exciting to be able to finally reveal. And I am looking in the comments here as we wait for Trevor to come back. If you do have a question for Eric, I'm going to do my best to read those tonight as we go through this. Eric, you said you can't see the comments from home?
No, it usually has that little section on the side where I can choose between I guess like the internal comments and public comments, and I can only see the internal.
Okay. Well, we'll do our best to keep you up to date at what's going on here.
That's half the fun.
That is. So as we wait for Trevor, a recap. A month ago, I said we revealed the Day 1 LegionsCon figures. That's going to be on Saturday, November 9th. So that was the 2-pack of the Gorich, the Unpredictable, and the Gaspar, the Unamused. Obviously, the tributes to both Chris and George. That's going to be available on Day 1. What we're going to look at tonight is what's going to be available on Day 2. And tonight's reveal is actually Cosmic Legions. We call it LegionsCon for a reason, not Mythic LegionsCon. And it is interesting because we do also call it Mythic Weekend. The end of the year celebration has always been very Mythic heavy. Especially this year with it being the 10th year anniversary of Mythic Legions. But LegionsCon is a celebration of all things Four Horsemen. It is Mythic Legions. It is Cosmic Legions. It is Figura Obscura. So this set tonight that we're going to look at having this be Cosmic Legions was something that I know I felt was very important, and I know you felt that way as well, correct?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's Cosmic's still the new kid on the block here as far as Legions goes. Sometimes it's like surprisingly so, because it's been shown for a while and been talked about for even longer, but there's just not that much of it in folks' hands yet. Whereas we've lived with it for a long time. So it's Mythic is usually the first part of the conversation. But Cosmic, is such an important part of the studio and what we're building here that, to give it equal weight as a show exclusive feels very appropriate. And it's just a great opportunity to do something a little different with Cosmic that might not, we wouldn't do in the main line.
Yeah.
So it allows us to have some of the fun with Cosmic that we've been having with Mythic over the years now.
Absolutely. And I mean, the third Cosmic wave, Outpost Axios, is on the water now. So you're right. Those first two waves, the second of which was a very small wave, those are in fans' hands. But as these figures roll out, the story rolls out, it's really fun to start, pulling back the layers of this story. I know that the conversations we've had, I'm super excited to be able to get these characters in this story out there. Trevor, do we have you? Are we all set with you now?
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Good. And speaking of Cosmic, Trevor, the photography that you've done for Mythic has always been amazing, but I feel like you are really just killing it with the Cosmic photos that you've been doing. Right from that first wave reveal, where we had all of those teasers that were set inside of the Valkatar cells, I feel like Cosmic has just been, you've dialed it in. You've helped create that look of Cosmarium. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to have you on tonight, was because of how much you've contributed to Cosmic and the photography that you took for this particular set.
Well, thank you. It's a different animal because, I mean, with Mythic, you can kind of get away with some non-specific, places and settings, you know what I mean? Which is nice and easy, but, we had all the three of us, and Nate had a discussion. Nate Barch had a discussion about the Ox Crew setting and the world it was in and the vision that Eric had for that. And the guys put together an incredible set for that. The set that we did for Valkatar was amazing. So it's a lot more, it has to be a little bit more focused. But yeah, it's inspiring, especially when you get those environments to play in. Ox Crew was a lot of fun. That was great. They did an amazing job with that. But yeah, this is good. This is wild. I love this thing. I love this thing. I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, we're going to look at... So Cloud actually is a good mention, saying make sure you change your Trevor calendars. Awesome Cosmic shot this month. Yeah, May is that great Escape from Valkatar shot that you did after the figures were in hand. Absolutely love that image.
Thank you. Yeah, it's one of my favorite images, and it's my birthday month. So
there you go.
Bonus.
Yeah.
All right, so... people are waiting. They're here. They've tuned in. They want to see this set. Let's take a look at this. The LegionsCon figures are always fun to create, in part because when we do show figures like this, Eric, we do have some very specific restrictions. Unlike doing a big reveal wave where there's lots of new sculpting and new parts, and in some cases the sky is quite literally the limit. Because of the short windows that we have to produce these, the fact that we need them by very specific times, we have to restrict ourselves to using some of the stuff that's available. Some people would find that maybe to be limiting. As a designer, I've always loved restrictions. I've said many times the scariest thing is a blank page sometimes, when you know what you're working with and it limits some of the possibilities. I find that refreshing, and I think we've created something very, very cool here, even within those restrictions.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we have the luxury of having two types of wave structures or release structures. Whereas, well, you know, Trevor mentioned Ox Crew earlier. Like Ox Crew was pretty much like a from the ground up endeavor, whereas like a wave like Zaxius, we're using existing parts. And yeah, and you're absolutely right. The challenge, it's a different challenge to do a wave like that, but it kind of forces different results, and when they succeed, it's really rewarding, and it you know, you end up with some great pieces. And I think this is one of those cases where we kind of took that concept of utilizing what we've got and, you know, like kicked it into full overdrive.
So earlier today we revealed this, and we posted a blog on the website that was something we've done for the Cosmic Legions rollouts. We've really enjoyed conveying the lore and the story of Cosmic, and we've done that oftentimes through like transmissions that are sent and that are, you know, intercepted. This was one we put up, and we used the Cosmic font, which fans have decoded now, and those fans took very little time to decode that this set, that language was the name of the set. And the name of the set is the Amazing Alien and Creature Creator. So let's dive into this. We're going to take a look at everything that we get with this set, and then we're going to start breaking it down a little bit. So here we go, guys. This is the 2-pack that we are going to get. This is the Amazing Alien and Creature Creator. And like we've done for a number of the LegionsCon figures, this is an absolute bounty of parts, because a huge part of this is encouraging people to mix and match into pop and swap. Now, Trevor, you've had your hands on these. You've shot all of these figures. Being able to play around with these pieces and stuff, are you already seeing the pop and swaps that people are going to do, and maybe they're going to enter in next year's pop and swap contest for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of examples of them, so you'll have to come up with something unique. But there's so many parts here that you can't help it. And what I love about it is there's the guy with the purple focused stuff. It's, you know, a little highlighted purple, and then you got some reds and the other guy, and the purple and red looks fantastic together. So when you mix these parts, they really look cool. I had a lot of fun putting together the different looks that I think you'll see coming up. But I would love to do like a calculation as to how many different looks you could get from all these different parts. You know what I mean? Just like holding things. But math is not my strong point. But yeah, it was fun, man. I hurt my hands popping and swapping them, but it was a lot of fun.
So I'm posting as we're talking. I'm trying to get these posted on our website and on our Instagram page. So this is the full set that you get. But let's break this down a little bit further. So here are the 2 main builds. And in today's teaser, we kind of set some of the story up about this lab environment and this breakout. These are some of the characters from that story. So let's dig into these. We've got these 2 different builds. These are, again, what I call the main builds. We've got a little bit of a look on the back there. And then the teasers that we did for this. The last couple days, I've put out a few silhouette teasers. I intentionally didn't use these 2 silhouettes because I knew people would see that Novian head and they would say, oh, that's a Novian head. So instead, we use these 2 builds. So these are 2 of those alternate looks that you can get there. Even these 2 looks, how, you know, that first one with the helmet on, that is meant to be that character with the helmet on. But that other one is, you know, a very different type alien look with those parts. Even these 2 things, when I saw these alternate shots, Eric, that Trevor had done, it felt like 2 different figures to me with just a minimal amount of part changes.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not much switched up on these 2 at all. But the paint scheme application on these heads, you know, transforms some heads that we've seen before. And like really just seamlessly integrates them into the, you know, these new color palettes and you know, parts layouts, and it just that's what I like, especially that, I'm looking at that alien head, and
I love that.
with that like kind of split lighter color on the bottom, darker color on the top. It has a completely different look and feel from prior usage.
Yeah. Those green eyes are killer, man. I love this head.
Yeah.
I love that head too. So let's dig into the story on this, and we'll start breaking it down a little bit further. So if you read the blog article we did today, we referred to a character called AA20, and that's who we're looking at here. This is Tusk Experiment AA20. So allow me to read the story. Experiment AA20 is one of the first specimens created as part of the Traders Union of the Five Circles of Cosmerium's secretive program of genetic manipulation. The lone survivor of the AA batch of experiments, AA20 has proven to be a nearly perfect thrall to the Tusk science officers who gave him life. AA20 is intelligent, resilient, creative, ruthless, and above all, totally compliant to the commands of his Tusk overseers. Often utilized in the extermination of failed experiments, AA20 has recently been sent out in search of a number of experimental creations which escaped the confines of the Tusk labs. AA20's mission is to hunt down and neutralize these escapees before evidence of the Traders Union's illegal practices can be discovered by the Ferox authorities. So this guy, he means business. This guy is, as it says, a perfect thrall to the Tusk science officers. He is doing their dirty work, guys.
And he's totally compliant because he's using the Magnus head, who is also totally compliant to Hadriana. Just gonna throw that in there.
And the design of this one too, like the paint selected here, one of the things, Eric, that we talked about with these characters being genetic manipulations, we wanted them to have similarities to some of the other alien races we've already, created and introduced without being exact copies. So this paint scheme here was very much inspired by the Zuvanoids and the Tuvanoids that we've seen with like Zeri and with Callian without being exactly like them. So it's fair to say that this character probably has some genes from those species in his makeup without being exactly one of those races.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that's, and what is like on these like exclusive type pieces. What's a lot of fun with this is, we're creating like this, especially in this one where it's a toy set. Like we're creating the build out, and then the story is kind of working around that. Whereas, other ones, the story comes earlier with the character. And so like, it's a lot of fun going in and like, kind of like reverse engineering some of the story elements. And that's a perfect example. Cause I wanted to use this Magnus head for a long time, but like there's, in Cosmic and, but there's certain things like, if he was going to be one of those other races, he's got rounded ears instead of the pointy ears. So, what's the reasoning for that? And so like, there's just like those little puzzles to solve.
Yeah.
And so I think like, this story, set up here really worked perfectly for what the set involves. And, I just like the characterization of the guy too. Like it matches the head. It matches the look of the no nonsense armor, the way that he's armed. Like it just goes together really well.
And as someone pointed out, you can certainly use it as a Fury Clan Magnus if you want. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. If you want Fury Clan Magnus, this guy can do it for you. So only one of the main characters in the set. Let's look at the next character. And this is Tusk Experiment CC24. The CC batch of Tusk experiments in genetic manipulation were meant to produce a new breed of shock troops loyal to the Traders Union. Protocols in genetic splicing, which dictate that no more than 3 gene sequences should be used in any single experiment, were ignored, and the resulting creations were monstrous. Developed by mixing the sequences of nearly a dozen species in the labs of facility D8G01, including Carzinian and Thraxian genes, the CC batch of specimens proved to be violent and uncontrollable, breaking free from the labs and slaughtering all who stood in their way as they made their escape. These genetically enhanced predators have begun to make their way across the rings of Cosmarium. The biggest and meanest of the group, a specimen formerly known as D8G01, experiment CC24, has been tracked to the remote planet known as Whip-Knee in sector 11-9-10. It is here where experiment AA20's hunt has led him, knowing that only one of these Tusk Lab creations will survive this unavoidable encounter. So these two guys, they are going up against each other. I know who I think is going to win, because this guy, as we revealed on the afternoon show, is named after our very own Diego. So that D8G01 is the facility where this character, these creations were made. That was the facility that we talked about in the reveal this afternoon. But this is our fun little nod to Diego. These two characters are going at it with each other. That fun story, that's Eric outside of the main storyline. That's one of the things I love about sets like these. The fact that we can play in these worlds, that Trevor can shoot these photos that look exactly like they belong without it being a major part of the storyline. I love these little side talk stories.
For sure. Those photos are awesome. Like I've seen them individually, but seeing them side by side like that, like with those distinctive color palettes playing off of their armor and skin elements and stuff.
I think about those things, Eric. I think about them. There's a method to it. Yeah, I like them to have a look. Again, like these are a little different than some of the other shots we've done a little bit, but they fit together. They just look like they go together, and they look like they're going up against each other too, kind of inadvertently. And D8G0 is going to get there first because he'll be shipped out first before anything else, I'm sure. Right?
So, looking at the set, this is what's going to be in the 2-pack. And one other fun aspect that I think we're going to talk more about tonight, guys, is we wanted to do something extra special with this set because there's some cool inspiration behind, why we created this and what really fueled this idea. So all of the LegionsCon sets have come in special boxes that are branded LegionsCon. We're doing something even, more for this set. It's going to be in what we're calling throwback packaging. So I love it when I go and I go to the supermarket or whatever, and I see brands I'm familiar with that have their kind of like throwback packaging, just because as a designer, I love to see kind of that graphic design treatments of yesteryear. These figures are, Cosmic Legions is only a few years old, so we don't have vintage packaging to throw back to. But being able to design packaging that kind of has that vintage, old school toy feel, like the toys that we probably all grew up playing with, I think is fun. So that's something that we're going to do here. But everything is going to be in that set. Of course, as we've done for all the LegionsCon and show figures, there will be standard versions of these released at a later date, minus the show packaging and a few pieces that are exclusive to the set. So you can see here what we've kind of lit up. These are the pieces that are going to be exclusive to the LegionsCon version. So that red vampire head, basically you can use that as a Fury Clan vampire. That is only going to be in the LegionsCon edition. And then with the CC24 figure, that Tusk helmet, waist piece, and those arms, those are only going to be with the LegionsCon version as well. And those will actually allow you, if you break this all down, you can build a whole new Tusk Trooper type character with those extra parts. So want to make sure that everyone was aware of that those are the exclusive parts for the show. But this is what you're going to get for the full actual show package. Again, guys, I'm very excited for this. Judging from the comments that we're seeing here, people are really seeming to like this. I know one of the things that I loved about this, Trevor, as you were putting them together, is you just said this, 2 distinct figures, but the parts do really cross match and work well with each other, as well as with other figures in the line already.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's going to go with a lot of different things. Even in, popping and swapping some of those cloth leg pieces from Mythic will go with that really well, like some tan pieces or something like that. From I think Zende has those, right? It's going to be great, man. But the purple and red complementary colors, as I think Steph said in the comments, they work really well together. You can really literally put anything on top of anything else, and it looks like it belongs. It doesn't look out of place. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I cannot wait to get it and play around with it and pop and swap, because that was the whole plan with the Furious 4 set from a few years ago. And Eric, when we had talked about that, the ability to pop and swap a lot within that set, the ability to pop and swap with other figures in the line. I mean, we've done a lot of black and red figures, so that set was, very much in that vein. That's kind of the playability that we wanted to capture here. We both love when we see photos of kids or kids that are of our age playing with these toys and popping and swapping and creating stuff. And I think that popping and swapping, that creativity was core to the spirit behind this particular toy.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, looking at this set here with all the pieces laid out, I mean, like Trevor said, I mean, the possibilities here are endless. Like you'd have to put some sort of an equation together to figure out what that number is, but there's a lot you could do with what's in this box. But I think beyond that, what works really well is, there's a, on the one head with the red and purple, like there's a little bit of brightness there. On the other characters, there's those little hits of green that are have a brightness to them. But other than that, it's a relatively muted color palette on both, which is going to work very well for integrating it with existing parts and for troop building and things like that. And none of these colors that are on these 2 characters, they will integrate well, but they're not repeating anything that we've done thus far either. So there's a lot of fun and coolness to be had in this pack itself, but then just as far as expanding your own world of Cosmic Legions, there's so much so many tools there to do that.
Yeah. So we have a comment that says we got them all excited about seeing the packaging and we left them hanging. So we don't have the packaging to show tonight. We're going to save that. But I think we can talk now a little bit about some of the inspiration behind this. And Eric, earlier we had a comment from Brian Pennington that asked, is it Mighty Men and Monster Maker inspired? Very astute observation and absolutely correct. So
damn, Brian, good one.
Yeah, I know, great.
That's amazing.
So for those that may not know about this, there was a toy that came out in 1978 by Tomy called the Mighty Men and Monster Maker. And it's a toy that I had as a kid that I absolutely loved. And when we were talking about this particular set, I got it in my head that I wanted to do a set of figures that was inspired by this vintage toy. Not really the toy itself, but the spirit of the toy. And I reached out to you, Eric, and I said, so I have this idea for a Cosmic Legion set. Did you ever have, as a kid, the Mighty Man and Monster Maker? And you lit up.
Yeah.
And you said, yes, I did. And I still have my set from when I was a kid. So you actually still, this is your set from when you were actually a kid.
Yep. Yeah, it's in relatively good conditions considering that it's from 78. But I was just, before the show started, I haven't looked in here in a while. I pulled it out for the show. And now I don't think this is actually from when I was a kid, but
please tell me you have some examples in there that you've done.
Pull this out so it doesn't fall all over the place, but there's
oh
goodness.
There you go.
So lined
Incredible.
ruled paper and everything.
Nice.
So it's I played with this a lot as a kid, and I think like for people who are like not familiar with it, this was technically kind of a spin-off toy. There was a line or a toy called, I believe it was called Fashion Plates, that came out first. That was, more aimed at girls, and it was it was for like aspiring fashion designers, and so you could take different clothing elements and put them together and do the same, rubbings on the plates. And it was a very popular toy, and so they wanted to get it into another aisle. And this is one of those things I don't remember for sure, but I would imagine this was something that was under the tree on Christmas morning. And just, it came with these little kind of like Conti crayon type, like little maybe graphite sticks. And I wore through those things so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
But one thing that is really cool about this sort of an homage is, and we talked about this like all the way back, like in maybe even the reveal show of Cosmic, but definitely early conversations about Cosmic, about inspiration. And there's all the big sci-fi stuff that everybody's familiar with, like your Star Wars and I'm drawing a blank right now, but Star Wars, Star Trek, like the hallmarks of sci-fi.
Absolutely.
But a lot of the stuff that like was really inspiring was like, especially in the 70s and into the 80s, from a toy perspective, there was all these one-off type items, and very much in sci-fi, largely because people were trying to cash in on Star Wars. But so this falls firmly into that category. I mean, this would be probably on most people's lists, like not even in the top 100 items to pull from as inspiration. But, this is a beloved item here for us.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's funny you mentioned that, because so we decided to go forward with this. And again, and we'll talk a little bit about the toy. For those that don't know how this toy works, we'll talk about it in a minute. But when it was time to get Trevor involved to shoot it, I had a similar conversation where I said, okay, there's a vintage toy that this kind of set, was inspired by. Did you ever have the Mighty Man and Monster Maker? And he had a very similar reaction to you. He even said, I think it's still in my mom's attic. He was like, I love that toy. So and that's why I knew that I had to have both of you on tonight for this reveal, because all three of us were not only excited for the figures in the set, but we have deep memories of the toy that inspired this. Eric, I unfortunately don't have mine from my childhood, but I went out and bought one on eBay before tonight's reveal because I know that when we revealed the Fisher Rice figure, there was kind of a fun little run on eBay on that old Adventure People character. So before there's a run on these, I wanted to make sure that I got one for my collection. Now,
Yeah, you go ahead, sir.
No, go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, you told me about this thing, man, and I almost jumped out of my seat. Like, it just brought back. I hadn't thought about it in so long, and this, my brothers and I, especially my second youngest brother's like kind of closest age, and to me, days on end, man. The entire day was gone. We were in the basement. We were pretending he was Stan Lee, what other, and like we have to come up with a new character, and like that's the only thing. It was the only storyline is just coming up with a new character and then coloring them in and like get it to the press. You know what I mean? Like it's like we got to come up with a name. And God, it was so much fun, man. This toy made many hours of my childhood, and I was so happy when you said this was the inspiration. I was really excited about it.
So for anyone who doesn't know how this works, the way this works is it's kind of a frame. And Eric, you have yours there. Do you have the plates with you that you can just kind of show that?
Yeah, let me.
So there's a frame here. Oh, go ahead, Eric. You want to explain it?
Yeah, so it's so this section here, it's got this hinged frame on it, and then over here this section is like the storage for the plates. And so you've got a section for heads. I cannot keep this thing straight. A section for heads, a section for torso and arms, and then a lower section for the leg, lower body, which often has like a environmental aspect to it. And so you would lift the frame, and each one of these, actually if I remember correctly, some of the plates are double-sided. Yes, like this one here, this is a texture on one side and an image on the other. I think some of them might have images.
They do.
Yeah, like
some
this
of them
one
have both images.
Yeah. But the texture thing, I had actually, until I just saw that, forgotten about it. But the texture element of it is really cool. Just like another step for, not only just to be like creative and have fun, but kind of learn about how to create, But Definitely. So you drop those three plates in, and then you put a piece of paper in, and the frame would clamp it down, and then you're doing you rub graphite or crayon or whatever implement that you have, and basically do a rubbing, like when you see people go to like a temple or a ruin, and they do like a chalk rubbing, that sort of thing. And you could use colored pencils, you could use crayons, and so you could go back into it after and outline things and all that. But it really, there were so many combinations and possibilities. So yeah, I think we all had the same experience, just hours and hours of fun and Trevor said he forgot about this and kind of forgotten about it until you mentioned it, and that's I love that, because everybody, like the action figure lines that like you really zoned in on as a kid, like you've got the mental checklist and all that, and I love it like when you come across something that you just haven't thought of since you were a kid, and it's like this almost like adrenaline rush, like in like almost like kind of like mental time travel that just happens in this instant where I don't know, you get like a warm feeling from it. It brings you back so fully to that moment in time.
Yeah.
Yep.
It absolutely transports
right there
you
again.
Being a kid.
Yep.
So that idea of it came with the set, came with a bunch of head plates, a bunch of torso plates, and you could put together like, the lizard character or the gorilla. But what was really fun was to use the gorilla head with the lizard arms and the spaceman feet and to mix and match these parts. In that aspect, I saw someone early on say that unbeknownst to them, this was their first foray into customizing. Really what you did with this is very much the spirit of what we do with Legions. That ability to pop and swap these parts to make these amazing aliens and creatures is exactly what we wanted the spirit of this to be for Legions. So that's where the inspiration came from. And it's funny, the last couple days, the teasers that I've been doing have had purple backgrounds. The first one had a yellow silhouette. The second one had an orange silhouette. And today's actual teaser had both of the figures in red. And I saw someone say these colors are intentional. And they absolutely were intentional, but not because those were the colors of the figures, but because that was a fun nod to this toy. So let's look at this guy. So one of the fun things, and I'm going to zoom myself in here for Solo.
I got a picture of that too.
Do you have a picture of the back of the package?
Yeah, you want me to? Sure.
Yeah, you can show that.
There you go.
And share your...
It'd be a little easier to see and less stress on your arms.
Sure. So let's see here. So this is the back of the package, and it actually shows kind of the how-to, but then it's also got those group of rubbings there that are examples of the actual, some of the things that you could create with this. So in the spirit of that, Trevor, one of the things we asked you to do was to do some pop and swaps with these and to shoot them against white so we could show them. And I actually have a few of your pop and swaps here that I'm going to show if you don't mind.
Sure.
So this is the two easiest ones. These are the two main builds. This is CC24 and AA20 here. But even just seeing them in these new poses and everything, I had to share this, even though we've already seen these builds, just seeing them like this, I think is really fun as well.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to go into it, but there was a reason for this. When I don't know if that's going to be the culmination, but when I started shooting these, when you told me to do that, I kind of put like a pose on them, just like had them doing something. And then I'm like, wait a minute. I got to do these exactly like the poses on the back of this box, like the sample poses that they had. So if you look at these, you're going to notice there's some very close similarities to the poses that are on the back of this box. Yeah.
So this guy
fact, here, AA20 is the red dude.
Yep, that little superhero guy. Right here. Yeah. Yep.
And this is what is it? CC
24.
CC 24 right there.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, their names, AA is Amazing Aliens, CC is Creature Creator, and their numbers are the year 2024. I also like to think that CC and CC24 stands for customer care because it's named after Diego. So, but maybe that's just me.
Okay.
So we've got another build here. So this is swapping some of these parts around with some creative different ways. And as soon as I saw that guy on the left there with those tubes and those guns, I love that. That's got such like a cool sci-fi, like gunslinger alien type feel that totally. I love the way that looked. And it was looking back at your source material.
That was a tough one because this guy has four arms and just getting in the spirit of it. He's got the gun in one and he's got the tentacles all, but I mean, I think it pretty much, it's in the spirit for sure.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. So seeing that, tusk helmet on the one on the right, but with that, reptilian style neck that we've got there, or, the neck that, that's the neck that originally came with the Thygar Valkatar figure that we're using here with the head that originally came with Novian. But even that there, you could put, this thing comes with multiple neck pieces. You could put the other neck on there, but even something like that gives it a very weird, monstrous type look that I think is very fun and in the spirit of this set.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, the reds and purples. I mean, they go great together. They look fantastic.
And there is purple in this. I know that a number of people thought this was going to be a Purple Gang Gang tribute, and it's not a Purple Gang Gang tribute, but we did get some purple in these figures for them, so I'm sure that they approve of that. So this one is a good one. This is the last two that we have to look at, but I think these are good because these show some of the LegionsCon only parts here. So the one on the left, you used the reptilian style arms there, but this one does come with those tusk arms. So the tusk arms are the armored arms that we see on the figure on the right here. If you swapped that onto the build that you see on the left, you basically would have a brand new tusk style trooper, which is kind of a fun, I don't want to call it a hidden build. It's not hidden, but it's a fun build that if you want to build out your Tusk ranks, I saw Curtis earlier saying that he really liked, Tusk Troopers. He's all in on more Tusk Troopers. You absolutely can do that with that here, or you can do some of these more, monstrous builds. But I like seeing these parts here. I love seeing that red head and how brightly colored and stark that is on Cosmic. And Eric, that's one of the things we talk about all the time is the bright colors that we can get away with in Cosmic Legions are so much fun and freeing from a design perspective.
Yeah. I mean, there's less rules. We're starting in a fantasy world with Mythic, which, already is a pretty open playground. But Cosmic is even, there's even more room to explore both design and color, and this is a perfect example of that. Although it's funny because it actually would work in what we've set up in Mythic, but it just fits seamlessly into the Cosmic look. So yeah, and again, I go back to that muted color scheme that, I'm looking at these pop and swaps here, and like you don't see where one figure starts and the other one ends.
Nope.
But that muted look of the body is such a great kind of almost neutral base for then that red head to just jump out at you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities. And like I said, while we don't have the packaging to show tonight, this is one of those sets that I could see even, absolute openers. I don't collect packaged figures. I could see this being a set that they want to have one to keep packaged, which is not unusual for the LegionsCon figures. I mean, actually, guys, so changed my wall behind me. I moved the instruments that were back there, and I actually have, you can't see all of it, but I've actually positioned all of the LegionsCon figures, both in boxes and with the characters in front of them on that wall. I'm not a packaged collector, and I keep those in packaged for sentimental reasons. I know a lot of other people do it because the experience of going to LegionsCon and being part of that weekend, having that packaged box up there is an additional memory of that. So between all the popping and swapping and the memory aspect of saving it, this is one that I could see people actually buying a number of, which is always makes me happy. So good stuff here. Love these builds. Love the things that you did, Trevor, with, nailing those different poses. It's definitely going to be fun to put that packaging together and eventually reveal that. What are your other thoughts, guys? We got 45 more minutes of time to kill. So we've revealed everything. I have no more pictures. So we've got to fill 40 minutes. We're going to fill 40 more minutes of time. So
I can say one thing that's striking me, just seeing these images here, aside from just how cool it is that they match the poses and the overall look of that vintage package. There's also something very throwback and vintage, even about just seeing these figures on stark white. You look at so many of the cross sells of the 70s and 80s, and you would commonly see that white background with either a photo or an illustration on it. And that's kind of, you mentioned like with Cosmic that we don't have, it's not a vintage line that's being brought back. It doesn't have that type of a history to it, but the sci-fi inspirations, particularly from the toy world, do have that history. And so a lot of the packaging and graphic design, and even character design as well, like they dig back into those other eras and take inspiration, and it's things like this, like a figure on a white package, or utilizing a white logo that's dropped out of like a fully illustrated backdrop or photograph. It was so common, just like, whether it be a logo or like a fully custom logo, or just dropping like block letters out, like that was the design of the time, particularly in sci-fi product. So like, it's the idea of capturing like a spirit or a feeling, with something that didn't exist back then. It's a challenge that we enjoy with this.
If this was an action figure line back then, there'd be like they'd cut it out. They put a star field with some planet and some innocuous ship back there, that you can't recognize as really big Star Wars, but it's kind of Star Wars because it's a triangle. It's great. Yeah, I mean the fact that they're on white because this is kind of in the spirit of Mighty Men and Monster Maker. And that was white paper, or we should have put it on lined paper. If I'd only seen that before, I would have put some lines in there, because everybody ran out of that paper. Like, they didn't give you much paper to begin with, and then you had to find some paper, and all anybody had was like lined paper back then. Nobody had printers and computer paper and stuff like that, so it's hard to get like white paper.
Even before you had a copier in the house or anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Trevor, did you shoot these against white, or did you shoot them against something and have to drop out the backgrounds?
No, they're shot against white. Yeah, kind of a light box type of thing, with some additional lighting. But it's difficult to crop things out of like a darker background or a gray background. It depends on what you want to do with them. But like, I knew that we were going to want to put these on white. Yeah. But we did do some other things, which I know are not ready for prime time, which I think will harken back to this as well, that are fun and very in the spirit of what Eric's talking about in terms of like 80s marketing and advertising of things like this. It's fun, man.
A number of people are asking about the hands that we showed, and I actually have them at the start of this. So this teaser here, that was something that we did obviously for the teaser today, but Trevor, that's also you. So that was you doing some photo manipulation, because we wanted, Eric, we were talking about the story with the Tusk science officers, and we wanted there to be these kind of Tusk hands in this piece here, and you had suggested using those like Thygar hands, but color correcting them, or color changing them, I should say. So Trevor, you actually did this and added all those little bits and bobs of color. And I know as soon as I saw it, I was like, I want that toy now. I want that figure.
I know. I probably would have been easier to actually just paint the stupid Thygar hands pink. But I did that all in Photoshop, but it came out good. And surprisingly, like, if you look back at you could pop on the picture again, but like the hands on the front of the box are in a very similar position. I actually found some behind the scenes of where they made the hands and
Mhm.
created the rubber for the hands. Like somebody's got a blog about the packaging of this
So was that
particular-
not just like a set of Don Post like Frankenstein hands?
I don't think so. I think they made them specifically for this because they couldn't like use those or something. I didn't read the article
No.
entirely, but they did talk about how they crafted them. Yeah, I mean they're meant to be like, you know, the Don Post type Frankenstein hands, but
That's what it
but
looks
surprisingly the Thygor hands were in a similar sort of position for what they're doing with them. They're not drawing, so they're manipulating and moving dials or whatever to create these creatures. So it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, very, very cool. So that was a fun addition there. So some people have been asking in the comments about how the color schemes were chosen for this. Eric, we can talk about that. I know that in our earliest conversations, we talked about doing something a little bit different than we've done thus far in Cosmic, and that was doing, and you said it earlier, you know, kind of more muted colors. You know, the idea is these are experiments, but they're kind of like military type experiments. So I know that my first thoughts were colors that had more of a drab military fatigues type feel to it, as opposed to some of the, I think, brighter cosmic colors that we've explored so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's you know, the purple and green is maybe a little bit flashier or closer to what we've been doing on some of it. The other one is more like, you know, like a space marine type character, a little bit more of a you know, like kind of like, I don't know, typical or like iconic, you know, something you see in Aliens or again, like trying to get like a familiar feel with it, that works well in the side story. But again, it's also like, I mean, it's very versatile. It'll play well with, you know, with other parts, and it just, I don't know, it's you know, for the most part fairly monochromatic, except for a few accents that play off the head color, and then with the CC, the 24, that one, like the idea there is we really wanted to take like those Novian parts and the Thygor parts and do something like way in the other direction as far as color choices go, because Thygor is a very bright color, you know, very alien. You know, Novian is more in like that snake, like traditional snake reptile type of a coloration, whereas so this, like, by going muted but then adding the weirdness of like that pale purple into it, it feels oddly natural but alien at the same time. And that, you know, that's the challenge a lot of times, is if we're reusing parts, how do we reinterpret those parts in a way where it brings something new to the table, and, you know, we can establish a new character that you know, uses parts that we've seen before, just in a way where it's fresh and exciting.
Yeah,
I was going to say that purple, as flashy as it is, like the other parts are being muted. The arms, the way you've done them, not in a bright color, just like you said, brings that all back down to, well, earth tones, if not earth. You know what I mean? Like it kind of grounds it a little bit, like you said. But you could flash that up with some other parts. I mean, stick some brighter parts with that purple, orange, Waltor the Mad pieces or something like that. It'd be kind of cool with that too. So you could definitely flash it up.
Yeah.
Well, I know that, you know, as far as the build goes, I remember seeing somebody else, and I can't remember. I do know who it was. It was CJ. So I remember CJ, at least, was the first person I saw do it, where he took the bare arms from Thygar Gravering and put them on Thygar Valkatar. So I love the Thygar Valkatar with the full spacesuit and the helmet, but that look with the bare arms just looked like super cool to me. Like it had that very right away. It had that very like, you know, because he's got that the Valkatar version of Thygar's got the big like two-handed tool, and just something about the way that that build looked really appealed to me, so much so that I have one in my own display like that. So I knew that that was a cool look. I personally love the Novian head. The Novian head, I think, just is so cool, so expressive. And when we were looking at these different parts, because that was one of the things with this is we wanted to create the set that had a lot of pop and swapping, you know, possibilities, but something like those heavily scaled arms, you can get away because they're genetic manipulations here with putting any head on that and saying, well, it's a mutation, it's weird. But I also wanted you to have the ability to make things that are weird, but also things that genuinely do look like they belong. And it worked really well, I felt, with the kinds of sculptural details, Eric, that you had in Novian's head. It works well with those Thygar arms, and even that six-eyed head that we talked about earlier. I love that alien head. I always find it so expressive, and there's kind of like some interesting plating on that head as well, just the way the shapes look, that I also think worked really well with those arms. So that all came together, and I remember when Joe Vassapolo put it together, like, you know, assembled the figure, and he messaged me and he said, this is now one of my favorite cosmic figures. And that obviously made me very, very happy. Oh, and CJ's in the chat, and he actually chimed in, and he says, I still got mine configured that way.
Nice.
So someone did point out, Curtis was asking, Curtis has been saying some very nice things about the figures. These are a home run for him. He's asking, he says, the gradient transition on Magnus' head is so beautiful. Who did the paint jobs on these? Eric, we have so many different painters that are working on stuff, and there is a sense there is things that people collaborate on, but I think these were largely done on two individual tables. Do you remember who did who?
Yeah, the AA20 Cameron did, and then Sherry did the CC24. I can't remember if Joe may have jumped in on some parts. I mean, this is what you can see by looking at this. There's a lot going on here, and we paint two copies at a time. So, you know, imagine those figures broken down into components, and then, you know, all those accessories in front of them, and then doubling that. Yeah. But that's largely it was Cameron on the one and Sherry on the other. And you know, it's funny you mentioned that with Joe's comment. I think, you know, if there was definitely a reaction when they were put together, because the pieces were out. You know, they paint the figures usually disassembled, so you know they can get into, you know, all the details, and you know, it's just make sure that the pieces are fully covered, and then they're put together at the end. And you know, when these two went together at the end, particularly the CC, like it you know, it was like a light bulb went off, you know, when you saw it. It just really came together in the build, even more so than how great the individual pieces looked. So yeah, and every once in a while it happens the opposite way. You know, you'll have the pieces separated and the individual pieces look good, and then you'll put it together, realize something's wrong, and you have to adjust. But you know, it's certainly you know, when it exceeds expectations, that's a good day.
Yeah, I remember Joe did that for the Furious 4 set, where the original build for the Praetorian, the Minotaur, the neck situation didn't work really well because the Minotaurs always have the big, kind of shoulder attachment. And because that one didn't, Joe was the one that had suggested, I think, the kind of Belphegor collar. And in the spirit of that, Joe actually is the one who suggested the blade that comes with the CC-24. Originally, that wasn't part of the build-out, the loadout for that figure. And just as he was putting it together, he really liked the idea of there being a blade. And, he asked if that could be thrown in, and adding more stuff is always cool when it comes to sets like this. So that ended up being a lot of fun.
It's a great fit too. Like I think out of all the weapons with that character, I actually like that one the best. He's got that kind of like, I don't know, like this is a terrible reference, but I'm thinking like Crocodile Dundee, or like some sort of like an outback hunter type guy with like that,
That's a knife right there.
Yeah, so like a non-comedic version of Crocodile Dundee. I don't know, I know maybe like Naugahyde from G.I. Joe. Like I don't know, like I'm picturing there's one like a game hunter type character that has a knife like that.
Yeah,
Craven or something.
Yeah.
You know what's cool too is, so this shot, Trevor, that you took, I mean, obviously this is the full loadout. The knife, we're putting it with CC-24. In here, it's kind of positioned more towards AA-20, but I think that would work great with that figure too. You look at that build, and that character using that, like pulling that out from his back as part, like from a sheath in his back or whatever. I could absolutely see that character doing that. So yet another point of versatility. Another thing that people are commenting on, both here and just in general, is the weapon. So this is another example of painting more of the details on those weapons. And it's funny, Eric, I think that first Cosmic Wave we did, because the 3 Tusk in that wave were all Legion builders, it almost didn't give us a chance, or at least we didn't in that first wave, paint some of the amazing sculptural details on these weapons and these parts. And now that the parts are being painted, it's almost like people are seeing all the details that are contained in those sculptures and reacting very, very positively to it. I know that I love seeing the weapons. These are not painted as crazy as the Fisher Rice ones are, but almost as much so, I think.
Go ahead, Eric.
No, go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, it was funny. That was the next thing I was going to bring up if I had a chance. Like, I love the details on these things. I like the wash on that alien gun and the little purple details and the little details. That stuff is like really making me happy. Because I was going to say the same thing. Like, because we got a lot of these weapons with the Legion builders, we didn't get all those little nice little details. There are some in some of the other ones like Novian Lean and stuff. But I love these things, man. That wash on that alien gun just makes that pop so nicely. The little purple and little dark, it's really, really nice. These look great, like really good.
It's interesting, you mentioning that first wave of Cosmic, and this year, and with our anniversary year for the company and anniversary year for Mythic, we've been doing a lot of like, looking back and thinking a lot about moving forward, and Cosmic is like wave 1 is like kind of far enough behind us now where you can look at it with a little bit of perspective. And that wave, we kind of approach certain aspects of it the same way we did Mythic Wave 1 by including all those Legion builders in the wave, and approach them like from a paint perspective the same way that we especially approach the builders in the early waves of Mythic. But it really illustrates a dynamic that we talked about, with doing 2.0s and reissues, and like how there's been such a progression in the toys since the early days. And now looking back at that wave with a little bit more clarity, it really like exemplifies how far forward we had moved with our figures, like our main, our fully painted like core figures. When you look at an unpainted figure like a sentry up against like a slog or something like that, or even a standard like a Thygar. So it's just kind of I don't know, it just struck me like it's those unpainted weapons like really look unpainted more now than they did 10 years ago.
Yeah, all the more reason to buy some weapons packs and augment.
Yeah. Well, that is true, because those weapons were available in the weapons packs, and they had more paint applications.
A lot more detail, yeah.
There were. I do think, and Eric, you'll have to tell me if I'm right or wrong here, because I'm not in the studio every single day. I do feel like Joe Vasapolo has a bit of influence with those weapons. I feel like he's gotten a little plumb crazy when it comes to painting some of these recent weapons that have come across his desk. And I almost feel like he's adding more and more paint, waiting for someone to say, no, that's too many paint details, but they look so good that nobody ever says that. So we're getting the benefits of Joe adding all those details to the weapons that he gets to paint.
Yeah, I mean,
keep going, Joe. Keep going.
I think he's taken like his, that's where like the customizer comes in, because that's the beauty of creating a custom is there's no rules, there's no budget, there's no production considerations. And, I think that's where that influence comes in. And then, he and I are, either the worst combination possible or the best combination possible, because I don't say no. And then, we end up with a weapon with, 40 paint applications on it. But, the proof is in the pudding, and, people have responded really well to that, especially, that Fisher Rice weapon set in particular. So, it's as long as it doesn't drive production costs up to the point where it becomes a problem for us pricing at retail, there's no negatives to it.
Yeah. There's a lot of nice blocking and color too on the armor that you put so much detail in, and again on the Legion builders when you first get them, it's kind of all a solid color, and I've seen people paint it up, and of course there's a couple of newer figures that have those details, but these look so good that every little thing has a different color and they're blocked out. It's really, really nice. They look, it just brings out these sculpts so well. Love the set.
That's what it kind of like. I mean, I've had this struggle for a while now, because the builders are such a part of the DNA of the line, and the customizing and really approachability of the line. Right. But I know what Sherry and Cameron and Joe can do on these paint masters. The life that they can paint into these figures, and then to paint something a solid color and put a wash on it is kind of heartbreaking in a way. But the consolation is we can always, A, you get to see what the customizers do, but B, there's a good chance we're going to come back to it and take a second or third crack at those parts.
Yeah,
sure. Oh yeah.
I'll say one of the things I love about the details in this armor is there are so many different ways you can paint it, that deciding to accent certain pieces in one figure versus different accents in the way they're painted in another, I think kind of tricks your eyes into transforming how the armor actually appears. That's one of the things that I really like about it. And I feel like that is also another customizer type influence, because that's one of the things that customizers do, is how many different ways can we paint this. I think that all of the details in that Tusk armor really lend themselves well to exactly that.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, we've got, more people than ever in the office now, but it's still a handful of people that are contributing and have processing these parts and how to put paint on them and break out certain sections and stuff like that. But then you've got a customizer community, across the world making these parts and coming at it from different perspectives. So, when you go to, you look at people posting, or, you go to LegionsCon, or, any show where there's customizers, and you see these takes that people have on these figures. And, it's so far outside of what we've got going on in our little sphere. And it's just like, it really just, it opens our eyes to the possibilities of how versatile these parts are.
Yep, for sure. So we got a comment here. Go ahead, Trevor.
Good. I have to say, brilliant move using the Magnus head. I've seen people use that human head on, some Tusk builds or the Novian Lean or something for a Space Marine, but not giving into the humans in Cosmerium, which no humans in Cosmerium. No.
Trevor's
no
thoughts
humans.
on that are very well documented.
But he looks great. He's humanoid. It's good. There you go.
Humanoid. So we've got Hedgehog in here. Jonathan saying this is a loaded set, and then Cloud followed up with both of the LegionsCon sets are packed. And, Eric, I know that's something that we try to do. LegionsCon is such a special event for us. And, the idea of coming to the event, because we know that the people that travel, this is not a local show at this point. This is something that people quite literally travel from all over the world to come to. So wanting to make sure that the special items that are available for them at the show really have that wow factor, really have that, when someone looks at one of these sets and says, I can't believe how much they've packed into this, that is very, very intentional. We want these to be an incredible amount of value for what you're getting with that.
Yeah, you want to, I mean, I've been to enough conventions and toy shows, and, you want to walk away with something that, commemorates the weekend and something special. And, because this can range from being something that's kept in a package as a souvenir, as a memento, or this is something that you go spend your time down on the floor during the day, and then you bring this box up to the hotel room and crack it open and immediately start popping and swapping parts and, setting them up on your dresser, before you go
or
to bed.
right in the lobby, right in the lobby with.
I mean, some people can't make it all the way up
with a beer in hand and some friends around you.
That's right. Well, I mean, you can trade parts right there if you want.
Yeah.
That's one of the things we're going to have at LegionsCon this year. So last year we kind of had Chris James did a bit of an impromptu. He asked me very last minute if he could do kind of a part swap type thing, and that was super cool. This year it went over so well that we're embracing it. We're adding it into the actual scheduled programming. So that whole idea of bringing some of your fodder pieces to swap for other pieces, absolutely can do that. And if you want to swap the pieces that you bought in the sets that day, you can do that as well.
Absolutely.
So one question a number of people have asked is, what are the prices of the LegionsCon sets? We haven't revealed that yet, not because we're holding it back. It's just we've got to get pricing from the factory to figure out what our cost of the show are going to be. But expectations are they're going to be very similar to the last couple of years. The 2-packs that we've had the last few years have been $100. That's what we're targeting for these as well.
That's great.
Nice.
So we got about 10 minutes, guys. Is there anything else that you want to cover tonight, whether it's about this set, whether it's about LegionsCon? I had Thomas earlier say that it's 192 days to LegionsCon, which feels like forever away, but also it scares me that it's only 192 days.
Yeah, I want the summer to go really slow, but I want this to come really fast. So it's very hard to balance those two needs and wants. Yeah, I'm so excited, man. It's going to be great. I know some things that people don't know, and it's going to be very exciting. So this is the Sunday one, right? Yes, this is the Sunday,
this
and the
is
others.
Sunday.
Okay.
So
yep.
the Chris and George 2-pack, that will be the Saturday, and we intentionally don't it's a tough call because I know that there are some people that can only come to one of the 2 days. So it's a bummer if you come and you can only buy one of the sets. But at the same time, we want people to make a weekend of it. We've done this for the last few years where there's one figure available on the Saturday, there's one figure available on the Sunday to really encourage you to spend the weekend. But also from a very practical standpoint, if you've seen the line and the pile of figures at LegionsCon, I know a lot of people get nervous that if I go, am I going to have access to the figures? Is it really hard to get the show exclusives? The last couple of years, as long as you come, you have access to the figures. We try to make sure that we make enough to meet that demand. So the people that come to the show that want it and want multiples of it are able to do so. That is our goal. To try to sell both at once would just add a level of chaos to it that I don't think we're really prepared to deal with yet. So for a number of reasons, we are going to continue to keep them split and do one figure on the Saturday, one figure on the Sunday.
And there are enough people, and I'm going to try and do more of this year too, who are willing to, for somebody who just can't make it both days, can only make it one day for work reasons or whatever reasons, that will pick you up one and, send it to you at cost and plus shipping or whatever, and whatever you want to do on top of that. So I'm going to do some more of that this year too, as long as there are enough to go around. Because there are a lot of people who do want both of them, but can't swing both days, unfortunately.
We got someone in the chat here. Boy called Malice saying, can't wait for
Oh, nice.
First time attending after watching from the sidelines for 2 years. That makes me super happy to see, hearing that people are making it out for the show after being unable to do so. I really do think, Eric, that if you're coming to your first LegionsCon, I say this every year that this is the one you want to come to, but with this being the 25th anniversary of the studio, the 10-year anniversary of Mythic Legions, just the way that everything shakes out, this is a very, very special year.
Yeah. And it's just trying to watch my words here. Yeah, there's I think somewhat of almost just like a cumulative effect of, every year builds upon itself a little bit. We learn more about what makes the show tick, what works, what doesn't. It continues to grow each year. So just by the nature of that alone, this year's the best year to come yet. But then, even on top of that, we do have some, it's just a special year. So we want to make sure that it's a special show. So you can't lose. If you have any interest in this at all, it's going to be a blast.
I know so many people coming for the first time. I'm so excited to see them too. The people I've never even met in person.
Really?
Joe Gonsalves. Can't wait for Joe to come to see Joe. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, there's a number
Yeah.
of people in the chat that are saying they're coming. Jonathan here, Gabe, first time coming to LegionsCon,
Nice.
driving from Ohio. Started collecting the Cosmic Legions line and can't get enough. So here we go. We got Gabe in the chat here who came in through Cosmic. That's always very, very cool to see. Tonight's a very Cosmic-centric show, so that's very appropriate. Yeah, you know, Curtis points out here, every year the show gets better. That means that any LegionsCon you go to is going to be the best. I mean, that's something that we work on, right? It's, you know, you learn stuff every year. You know, both Full Horseman Studios, Eric, we learn stuff every year. LegionsCon, you know, from a promotional standpoint and just a logistical standpoint, learn stuff every year. But there's also a sense of when we pull something off, it's like, okay, well, how do we top this next year? Like, how do we do, you know, 2 years ago, the Thygar, the giant ogre, you know, that greeted fans as a surprise when they walked into the lobby of the La Quinta. And then this year, we up that with both Thygar and Ziri that greet people. Now, I'm not saying we're going to do 3 life-size figures this year. There is a limit, but that is an example of how every single year we're trying to bring new things to the table and really do try to one up what we did the previous year.
And that's the thing. Like, part of, for us, one upping what we did, same way like we do with releases and you know, wave structures and things like that, is like, you know, just because you did number 1 year, number 2 the next year, number 3 the next, that doesn't necessarily mean number 4 is going to come. Like the sequence is unpredictable. Like, you know, just when you get comfortable with some sort of expectation, you know, there's a balance. We want to have enough of that expectation there, so there's a comfort level, but also, you know, we want to hit people with something that's a little unexpected and, you know, creates a kind of excitement that they didn't know was a possibility before they showed up.
Yeah, absolutely. So one comment here from VDog says, it will be my first time. We should start our own group. So I don't know about your own group, but you know what would be super cool? Last year, the Legions ladies did a group shot. And you know, this was something that they organized. LegionsCon didn't organize this, which is my way of saying that I don't need anything else to organize. They organize that themselves. All the first timers, they should plan something on like Saturday where they should all get together and do like a group photo of everyone who's attending LegionsCon for the first time. I think that would be a super cool picture to see.
Yep. That would be
Absolutely. Great. Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of thing, like, in, you know, in retrospect, I mean, I think it's become an easier thing to do now that everything's like on site, but you know, it'd be cool if there was some, you know, photo documentation of, like, you know, the group of new recruits every year, just to, I don't know, it'd just be,
that'd be cool.
Thing to see.
That'd be cool. Just don't start a Facebook group, please. No, we don't need another Facebook group.
We don't need another one of those.
just a chat group. Just do a chat group and get together so you all know when you're coming on. And
well, it's also one of those groups where
that'd be cool.
Hopefully, if you're in the going to LegionsCon for the first time group, hopefully, you know, that's a group you're going to age out of, because hopefully after that first year, you're coming for a second year. You know, for me, that's one of the things that I love is people that make the trip and then say, I don't care what I have to do. I have to be back next year. Like this was such a special weekend, a special experience. I mean, we say this all the time. The toys brought us here. You know, we're all toy collectors. You know, Eric, we're making these toys, you know, things we love. That is obviously a huge part of all of this. But the LegionsCon, the cabal, the community, everything around this goes beyond just the toys. So when people come to the show and experience that and get to buy some cool toys like this set here, that is just such a win-win, and we're thrilled to see them year in and year out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've told you this before, Jeremy. Like anytime I'm out in that area, there's a couple stores out there that occasionally will go out to pick something up, and I just love passing the hotel. Like it's just I even though there's not a show there, like I don't know, like I like driving past it and looking over, and it just was just an absolutely amazing weekend last year that like it just I don't know, like it's just it's I think about a little bit about what happened last year and just get excited about what's coming up in the fall.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
It's such a good mix of like the toys you love, new stuff that you've never seen before, stuff that you can pick up, and then we say it all the time. It's just seeing people that you love. You love these people. Like it's like there really isn't anybody there that I don't want to speak with and see. And then there's people that I never get to see, except for that one time, even at other cons and stuff like that. And it's growing more and more. Like more and more people that were on the periphery of this line are now slowly coming. I want to say I have an influence on that, but but I'm bringing people in, and other people are bringing people in, and it's so cool, man. It's such a good time. It's so much fun, and it's a great venue. And now we're going to have practically the whole place. We won't even have wedding parties coming in the middle of the night or anything like that. So it's going to be great. Now they know what to expect. They know that we're good people, and that we're not going to cause trouble or anything. We're just, we stay up late. We like to party.
So Trevor, I was in town last week, obviously in New Jersey. I stay at the hotel when I'm in town, and when I went to check in, I had my Mythic Legion sweatshirt on, and the lady at the front desk, like her face lit up when I walked up, and she said, "Oh, LegionsCon, are you here from LegionsCon?" And I said, "Yes, I was here for LegionsCon and stuff." And she's like, "What are you doing here? LegionsCon's not now." And apparently they think we can only stay there during LegionsCon, but just to see that level of recognition and warmth reinforces what you were just saying. A couple comments here. So Adam is saying, I will be attending by myself. Adam, I can tell you won't be by yourself for long. Because,
no, not at all.
Dude, it is like everyone is just so welcoming. Everyone is on the same wavelength. You will literally have so many new best friends to hang out with.
Absolutely.
Eric Broder is asking whether or not you plan to be up Saturday night in the lobby until 3 a.m. again.
I got to keep it going. Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. You don't
want to go to bed.
As tired as I am, I don't, want the night to end, because it's just, it's not, I'm not out there partying. I'm just, just spending time with people who, enjoy spending time with. So
I'll tell you, I'll leave. The last thing I'll say is just, on the spirit of LegionsCon, Big Dub, a friend of ours who came down last year for the full experience. He came in, on Wednesday night. So he was as we were actually unloading the truck on Wednesday, I saw Dub had already arrived at the hotel. He came.
We were hanging in the bar while you guys were unloading.
Yeah. So Sturz, he was there the whole time. Talking to him, he was like, "Yeah, I think I'm going to have to go a day earlier this year." And I'm thinking, and I'm like, he was there from Wednesday through Monday last year, was part of every aspect, and even that wasn't enough, where he's thinking, I think I'm going to have to go a day earlier so I can really kind of ease into it and get the full experience. So that, I think, really is indicative of, how people want to keep coming back for more.
For sure.
We're going to sign off, guys, but before we do, just a couple quick announcements. If everything we've told you about LegionsCon, if the figures we've shown you, if all of this has made you say, yes, sign me up. I need to go. LegionsCon.com is where you can get your tickets. We have the 2-day badges. We only sell the 2-day badges pre-sell online, so you can pick those up online right now. They're $40 plus fees. If you do only want to come for one day because your schedule permits, we do have single-day passes available at the doors. But all the information on the show and everything you need, you can find that at LegionsCon.com. Few other just quick announcements. This coming weekend, we actually do have 2 shows. So if you are on the West Coast, there is going to be the second annual Mythic meetup at Toy Fusion in Sacramento. That is being run by our friend, Iz Ramirez. Both Nate Barch and Walter Hagen from the studio will be in attendance at that show. Additionally, on this Saturday, May 4th, there's the Lehigh Valley Toy Show. That is another street team that is being run by Wolf King Customs, and the birthday boy himself, Cookie, will be at that show representing the studio. So if you check out our website, you can see a list of all of the events that we do at sourcehorseman.com/events. If you're in those areas this weekend and you want to come out, check those shows out. Guys, thank you both very much for being a part of this special show tonight. It was wonderful to talk to you, to reminisce a little bit about the Mighty Man and Monster Maker, and to geek out about the new set for LegionsCon.
Absolutely.
Thanks
for having us.
I will be off next week. I actually have some personal obligations, but I will be back the following week with a brand new conversation, everyone. I hope to see you then. Good night, everyone.